All right, we are live. Let me just get the Amazon one going here. It's going to be a fun exploration of a new product here. There's been a lot of anticipation for this device since it was announced kind of by surprise. And in full disclosure, I paid for this with my own funds. So this is the Mac Mini, of course. Still in the box. I haven't opened it yet, but I will. I can guarantee you that's going to happen in a minute or two here once I get my Amazon stream going. And speaking of Amazon, this is actually on sale at Amazon. They've got a coupon on top of a lower price than I paid for it directly from Apple. I should have bought it at Amazon. Oh, I guess I was muted. Okay, now I'm not muted. So now we're live. Hopefully you can hear me. And we are ready to get going here. So we're going to unbox the Mac Mini. And I'm excited. And hopefully you are too. So let me get everything situated here and we'll get started. We'll unbox this sucker. All right. So HDTube is the first commenter in here who recently bought a Windows Mini PC, as we've been covering extensively on the channel. But I was tempted also, and the only thing the reason why I got one is because I have a YouTube channel. I have no use for this, but I wanted one, which I think is our problem. I got the regular M4. So this is the, I'll put this in the chat. This is the base model. So it's the $599 base model. So that's what we got here. And I will put this as a pinned chat. So I'll pin that, and we're good to go. Okay. So there, that's what we've got. And we're going to unbox it, and we're going to see what's in there. It does have Thunderbolt 5, and I'll show them off. Justin Roberts is here. Good to see you. You guys want me to unbox this or what? I can delay it if you want. It literally just arrived. So it came to my mailbox a few minutes ago, and I picked it up. So let's crack her open here. So Apple has nice boxes, but the problem is they're not reusable because once you pull that strip off, the box is no longer recyclable. All right, so all hail the Apple logo. Ned Dread, it sure can. In fact, they have an Apple Silicon specific version of No Man's Sky that will install from Steam. Oh, so Thunderbolt 5 is only on the M4 Pro. So I don't have the M4 Pro. Let me look that up. Now you got me confused. Let me look this up real quick. Actually, I could probably see it on here. So the box is much smaller. I actually have an original. Let me go get it real quick. I have an original Mac Mini in my basement back there. And I'm tempted to boot it up because it's like a time capsule. My brother was using it when he was in high school. Let me see where it is. Okay, here it is. This thing has been dormant for a long time. I'm really tempted actually to boot this up. So I think this is the original G4 Mini. So this is not the new one. Look at all the ports they used to come with. So this is not the new one. But the 5 USB-A ports, you had FireWire. You had, I don't know if it was gigabit. You had a DisplayPort output, microphone, headphones. Maybe we'll boot it up in a little while, see if it still works. I'll have to find my DisplayPort adapter. Isn't that cool? All right. You probably don't want me to doing that, though. You want me to unbox this thing. Mini. Games on the Mac. I think the Mac has a lot of gaming potential. So, all right, let me look this up. Let me see if it says it on the bottom here. Oh, Thunderbolt 4. Okay, so here's the specs. 10-core CPU and GPU, 3 Thunderbolt 4 ports, which is fine because I have no Thunderbolt 5 devices to speak of. So there you go. Red Techie is here. See, this is the thing. He bought one. So Red Techie got the M1, I think, right? You have the M1 Mini, and you really like that one. I have no need for this, but I figured it would be of interest to all of you viewers. And mini PCs have been so popular on the channel lately that I felt like I got to get it to keep my cred, my street cred as a mini PC reviewer. Grand Admiral Thrawn is here. Pleasure to see you. It's good to see that the subspace transmissions are working well from the unknown regions. All right, here it is. It is tiny. Bigger than an Apple TV, but smaller than the prior Mac Mini. Oh, there's a little bit of verbiage here. Oh, this is the software license agreement that you barely can read this. So basically taking off this strip of paper has you agree to all these licensing terms. So Matthew said, so this is what's funny about these things, is that there are so many PC people that are really interested in this. And I think it's because of the size, but also the capability, right? All right, now we have a power cord. So the power supply is integrated. So there's no power brick. So already it's got a leg up on all these Windows Mini PCs that we look at, right? They all have power bricks. This one doesn't. But all you get in the box is that. So you get the Mac Mini and a power cord, but everything else, the keyboard, the trackpad, all that stuff you have to buy separately. And there's a little bit of an instruction guide here. Mac Mini. Before using Mac Mini, review the Getting Started guide. So they want you to go to a website to look at the Getting Started guide. And this is a very simple how to get started. Plug your Mac Mini into a display. So what you have on the front here are 2 USB Type-C ports, and the Thunderbolt ports are on the back. And I'm assuming these can also do display output. So what was that, 4 displays on this? Is that right? Poorly Buffalo love. Yeah, I can't get enough of my mini PCs. I am flooded with them. I'm getting rid of a bunch. So if you haven't already, make sure you're on my email list so that you can get one. So by the way, at the moment on Amazon, not to like turn this into a shopping expedition, but if you go on Amazon, it's a little slippery by the way on the bottom here. If you go on Amazon, these are selling for $579 for the base model. And there's a $30 coupon, which brings it down further. So it's like $548 right now. So if you click the link in the description, that'll take you right in. And I've got it selected in the carousel for you as well. All right, so what do you say we plug it in, see what happens? So we're going to attach this up here. Oh, by the way, the cable doesn't tangle. It's all like a cloth kind of cable. It's funny how we've come full circle. All those old cables from like the 50s are all cloth because they don't tangle up as easy. And here we are. All right, I'll plug in here. I am going to plug in Ethernet. Now, I did not get the 10 gig Ethernet version. So if I had a need for a desktop Mac, I would have gotten that. And, you know, I do have an M1 MacBook Pro. I have the M1 Max, which I've never used to its full capability, of course. And I'm now going to desecrate this thing with a USB hub here because my keyboard and my trackpad both require USB-A connections. I got my little dongle here. And we'll plug the game controller into it later too. All right, so I think we're ready to boot her up and see what happens. How do we turn it on? Oh, that's right, the switch is on the bottom. See that? I forgot about that. The switch is on the bottom on the back. And you can't get to it without picking it up. So the button's down here. And then it shall... Ooh, it has a speaker built into it. It just beeped at me. So let me zoom out here. And we'll get our display up. Looks like it's already booting. Hello. Hello there. Yeah, the the cost of storage is a bit ridiculous on this thing. So I went with the bare minimum, which is the bare minimum is what I went with here. And at some point I'm going to have to log into my Apple account, so you'll have to bear with me here while I set this up. And we're just going through the motions here. And of course, we have a software update. So it's downloading macOS Sequoia 15.1. Of note, none of my Macs are running with Sequoia just yet. But now that 15.1 is out, maybe I'll do all the updates this weekend. That's right, General Kenobi, hello there. Cedar Lake is already putting the Christmas lights up. I guess it's that time, right? It's probably about that time. All right, we'll let it go through the motions here. I did not get the 10 gig Ethernet on it though, so. Yeah, I thought it would too because, you know, the MacBooks just turn on when you open the lid, but this did not. And the Mac Mini, the other Mac Mini doesn't have a, yeah, I think actually most of them don't have a power brick. The old one here that I have, this is the G4, this one does require a power brick. Plugs in right there. I really want to boot this one up now and see what, maybe if we have time, we'll boot it up and see what's on it. And given that it was my brother's from high school, I probably don't want to know what's on it, but. And it looks like 3 displays are supported on this. But yet, the price escalates quickly. One thing that I give them credit for, though, is that the base model is not as useless because, yes, it only has 256 gigs of storage, but you can always attach external storage to it. I like this this SanDisk one that I looked at a little while ago. This has like 8 terabytes solid state. So you just pop it in the, you know, one of the ports, and you got storage. Yeah, I think my MacBook Air has 512 gigs, and I'm rarely using all of it. But I have, like, you know, I have the cloud storage and all that. And Connell wants, yeah, I think a lot of people are considering these things. Yeah, I'm going to be really careful about it, actually. So yeah, you can play some games. So the games are coming. Apple does have a compatibility layer similar to Proton, but they're not making it available to consumers, more to developers. But there are some games. We'll look at No Man's Sky, for example. There's actually a Mac port of that on Steam, and it's optimized for Apple Silicon. And Poorly Buffalo makes a good point that the 10 gig Ethernet is an extra $100, but you know what? That's true. It's not a bad deal for that. And this one has slower storage. I'm totally screwed. It's not using dual NAND chips like the 512 gigabyte version. I'll do a disk benchmark, and we'll see how it performs on that. I think though that even this base model has 16 gigs of RAM, and I think that's more than adequate. For most consumers, right? Even, you know, like for my wife, 8 gigs would be enough. But she doesn't do much on her computer. So Ernst says that in the Netherlands, the base model is 719 euros. I wonder if there's some EU issues going on there that they're jacking their price up for. But yeah, the the escalation to 32 is a lot. Although I think, again, for most people, I think 16 is going to be fine. And there's a couple, right? There's Whiskey and there's Crossover, which do allow you to run Windows games. And I guess they do port to Apple Silicon now also. But yeah, we'll do some disk speed tests and see how it goes. Yeah, no, 640K should have been enough. Gosh darn it. All right, this is not a good sign because now it says that it's going to take 30 minutes to do this initial update. So this is the problem we run into every time we do one of these live streams, is that something like this happens. You know what I could do, though, while we're waiting? Maybe we can boot up the old one and see what's on that. Let me see if I can find the adapter in the back for that. I'm just looking at this to see what I got. I think I can make this thing work. Yeah, let's boot up the old one. We got a few minutes. Let me go get the power cord. This thing's been sitting in my basement for I don't know how long. So my father was renovating his house, and he's just like, get this stuff out of here or it's getting thrown out. So I came over and took all this stuff. The cable is quite slimy. Yeah, it says like 30 minutes. It probably won't take that long, but... All right, and let me see if I can find a... I know I've got an adapter in here somewhere. That's a USB-C one. Yes, I've got a DisplayPort adapter somewhere in this box of stuff here. Here we go. Yeah, that'll work. So this should work, I think. And let me just get an HDMI cable out here. All right, so we've got who knows how long on that update. There's always an update when you get your Mac Mini out of the box. So if you're buying this for like a holiday gift for somebody, be sure that you prepare for that. All right. So I'm going to switch over to the other device here. Like I said, this has been sitting back there for a while, so I have no idea what's going to happen when I turn it on. It did come on. It's booting. There might be a CD in there. If the hard drive still works, I'd be shocked. Yeah, so this old one's a G4. And I don't hear the hard drive coming up, so I think the hard drive might have stiction. There is something spinning. That might just be the cooling fan. Oh, it's going. Here it goes. In case you're just tuning in, we got the new Mac Mini here. We're just waiting for it to update. So we're booting up the old G4 Mac Mini, which I think is the first iteration of the Mac Mini. Well, this one's actually on the way to rebooting, so we're making good progress there, so it may not be that long. But let's see how the old one's doing here. I'm just curious what's on it. I don't even remember where this... You know, this could have made its way to my office, too, so I don't know. Hey, the Brown is here. There you go. That's real meta. Happy Friday to you, Ed. I'm missing a whole bunch of comments here. Oh wow, this will take you back. Remember that? So I did not hear that. Let me look that up real quick. So if you could upgrade this SSD, that would be really cool. It does have a removable SSD module. That's, oh, it's Apple Insider says that. But it's not like a standard one, I'm assuming. But it's not really upgradable, it says here. So it's possible. All right, so here it is. Actually, you know what? This has got a bunch of my stuff on it. So I must have taken this over. So when was the last time this was booted up? Let's see. I'm just looking here to see what this has on it even. So I think this is running, this must be like from 2010, I think is the last time this was booted up. So it's running 10.6.8. So this was, I must have been using this as like my personal computer for a while. So this is from 2011. 2012, in that era. Huh. Well, I should go through this thing and see what's in here. So I see stuff from my old little media startup. I got some Dropbox stuff in here. Wow. All right, well, I'm going to have to dig around on this. Boy, this was connected to my Drobo. You know what's funny? I must have been using this as my personal computer. I can't remember. Well, yeah, it's got Hulu Desktop, Nestopia. It still works. I don't think it has an SSD on it either. Very cool. All right, so I'm going to shut this down, and I'm going to archive some stuff off of it later. That's really cool. Neat. All right. Yeah, I found my $1 million Bitcoin wallet. Can you imagine? I wish I was into Bitcoin back then and had a wallet. It'd be worth, whatever it would be worth a lot. Even if I had like 1 Bitcoin, it would have been worth a lot. All right, so let's go switch back to HDMI 1. All right, now this is the new one now. So I guess I must have bought this one. Yeah, I really don't remember using it, but apparently I must have been. So I think what happened was I had a Mac Pro. So why was I using this thing? Maybe this is like my little server one. I don't remember. Or maybe, you know what it was? I took it from, I must have gotten it from my dad's place and then commandeered it and turned it into something else. All right. So I don't want to migrate. I'm going to just start from scratch here. So I'm going to now go through the whole Apple process. So bear with me for a second here while I log into my account. You know what's surprising is they don't let me use my passkey, because I have the passkey set up for my Apple account, but I have to use my password here. And I'm doing this now because I want to be able to put my, my software on it. So bear with me for 1 second here, folks. I have a stupid long password, which is smart, but time-consuming to type in. And I'm probably going to get it wrong. And then I'm going to type it all in again. Did I get it right? Let's see. Yes, I did. And we're going to say continue. Oh, shoot. Now it wants my security key. Where did I put that? I don't know where this stupid thing is. So now I'm screwed. No, I don't want to change my password. Okay, so... Okay, I got to go find my security key. This is what happens. It's good that it's secure, but sometimes it's too secure, and then I can't get into the darn thing. Let me go find a security key that I think is... I got security keys all over the place. But whenever I try to find one, it's never where I thought I put it. Oops. But now I'm stuck. Let me put this back in. Using our security key. So I have a YubiKey, this thing. So I'm going to try to put this in here and see what I get. I mean, the good news is it's secure, right? But it's... Oh. Didn't like that. Let me go back and try this again. Well, so much for setting this thing up. Yeah, see, I'm in the same boat Greg M. I have it in my password manager. But now I'm like stuck in this loop. I can't get out of it. Let me reboot here and see if we can start from scratch again. So I did put in my security key. That doesn't sound good. And you can't turn the darn thing off because it's stuck there. Let's restart. All right, we're going to take it from the top, see if we can get this to work. And I'm pretty sure this key has been registered with my account. Let me take a look and see. I haven't set up a new Mac since I set up all this security stuff, so now I'm like totally screwed. So I have 3 keys set up. Large YubiKey with NFC. I think that's this one. Let me see if I can add this, or this one's already been added. Let's see. I'm just going through my security keys here. Now it wants me to insert and activate. I just inserted it. There it goes. Oh, I've already, okay, so this one does work on my account. Okay, so this one should work. So I have a Google security key. I've got this one, and I've got another one upstairs. Let me reboot the computer here. And I will say it is inconvenient to have the power button underneath the unit like this. Well, that's the rub, right? So in my case, I got to have these security keys all over the place, and if I lose one, I'm screwed. I'm sure there's probably another way to get in, but I'm not sure. All right, so let's go through. I got to go through this whole process all over again. Not now. Continue. Not now. And what it is, I'm trying to sign into my Apple account so that I can download my software. But normally I can use my passkey. So Maritz is already ahead of the button, ahead of the game on this. And Brian's got all 3 screens working already. That's cool. Yeah, this is on sale at Amazon already, so you can get a good deal on it. All right, so let me go back to my password manager here and type my password in for the second time. But now I got a key that should get me back into it. See, this is what happens when I do these things live. Everything goes to you know what. So all right, so now I type that in. I need to use one of my security keys. So now I'm going to put this in. So it's asking for it. I'm going to put it in. All right, so I just hit that. Oh, is it loading? Yes. Okay, so I made it further. Bear with me, folks. I think we're getting there. Yes. And now I got to make a new computer account, which I just did. Can it run Crisis? We shall see. David Bound is here, and he's working on his 2019 MacBook Pro. So the rule is here, folks, don't lose your keys, because if you don't have your keys, you can't get in. You would think the phone would be good enough for that, but apparently not. So there you go. All right, so now go through all this nonsense. Okay, welcome to Mac. Okay. Now we got the keyboard assistant. Go through that. All right, so here we are. Welcome to your new Mac. So we got to get downloading. One thing I will say about Apple, I don't use Safari exclusively all the time, but what I like about Safari is that it doesn't have bloat on it. So I'm going to install Steam on here, and we'll grab a bunch of stuff from there. And actually, while that's going, let's grab Final Cut Pro. Ready for Apple Intelligence. Okay, what do I get for that? Let me set up my Apple Intelligence. All right, okay. Why not? I'm not going to share my audio recordings. All right, so that's going in. And then I'm going to download the apps that I own. So we're going to throw Final Cut Pro on there. And we're also going to put Apple Motion on there. And then I have Pixelmator. We'll throw that on there. So far, it seems to be pretty zippy. And then the 3D Mark benchmark runs on here too. So we'll grab that real quick. So I don't think the PC version runs on this. So let those download, and then we'll get Steam going. Oh, so Apple's 30, hang on a second. All right. So that is coming together. So I think it must have sold out because I saw this available. Let me see. Let me click on the link here. Yeah, mine still says I can get it tomorrow. Well, now it's November 30th through January 8th. So they sold out in the last like 2 minutes because it was available right up until a few minutes ago. Okay, so we got that installed. Pixelmator Pro is installed. And let's go. I'd like to add my applications folder to the dock. So let me throw that down here. And then I do it as a list, I think. Yeah. Perfect. Okay, so that is going on. Let's just make sure let's wait for these apps to finish downloading, and then we'll put it through its paces. So what I'll do first is I'll run a benchmark, and then we'll get Steam going with some of that No Man's Sky stuff. We have to install Rosetta. But what's nice about the Apple stuff is that most of the stuff that I run on my Macs are all in the App Store. So I just go in and grab, Final Cut, all the stuff that I typically run. But yeah, it's almost done installing Final Cut Pro already. I did not get the 10 gig Ethernet on this one. So I use DaVinci Resolve on the PC side when we're doing PC reviews, but I don't run it on the Mac. I'm a Final Cut guy. And El Wapo says the Apple IIe was the last Mac. Well, that was the last Apple machine because the Apple IIe is not a Mac. Oh, that's interesting. We'll try that too. Because typically what happens is if it's not signed, then you go into the settings and just give it permission to run it. All right, so now that everything's installed here, why don't we do some 3D mark real quick here. We're going to run the wildlife benchmark because I'm curious about how that works. And let's just do this real quick. Oh, great. I have to type in my freaking 1200. So I don't understand why they make such a big deal about. So they make a big deal about passkeys, and then they don't let you use them on the things that you would use a passkey for. But now that this is on my account, what I was able to do was paste it over from my other Mac. So that made it go a little quicker. So with the new OS, in order to run an unsigned app, you have to disable Gatekeeper. Oh boy, there's a whole bunch of new stuff to learn. What is Gatekeeper? That's going to be a problem because I do run a few things that are not. So I've not installed Plex yet. I should probably do something with Plex on this, shouldn't I? Yeah, these things are popping up well below retail. Well below what I just paid for it, I should add. Because I bought mine direct from Apple. And I'm seeing it on Amazon for less. I'm seeing it in other places for less. So next time I'll buy it direct. Or from another retailer. Sometimes these Apple things, you never know what you're going to end up with. All right, so let me go find the benchmarks here. I want to do wildlife. Why can't I see wildlife on here? Solar Bay. There we go. All right, so wait for these updates to finish, and then we'll run some benchmarks on it. Yeah. Yeah, so this is like Apple's new security thing. So I don't think it's designed to run on USB power, and that's because the power supply is built in. So you just plug directly in. There's no separate power supply. And yep, this is the base model. I should have pinned that chat. Did I pin it? I did pin it. Yeah, this is the base model. So this is like the super base model. So there's 0 on here. This is like if you go in and buy the cheapest Mac Mini, this is it. And I did that on purpose. All right, so let me just wait for iMovie to finish up here, and then we'll run a couple of benchmarks, and then we'll download a game or two and see how it does. So Golden Trumpet did the trade-in. Yeah, I usually trade in my iPhone each year. I get a pretty good trade value on that. All right, it's almost done. Okay, we are ready to go. All right, so now we're going to start wildlife. And let's see how it does. This is going to run in like an iPad-sized window. And I agree. I think this has been really good that they went with a 16 gig. And yeah, it is. There is some degree of commonality here with the studios, right? So I'm curious to see what they're going to do with the Mac Studio next, right? And what about the Mac Pro? We'll have to see. Yes, I think this could make a good Plex server, especially because you could do other stuff on it while Plex is running in the background. And you get all that RAM, so that certainly helps. Yeah, there's not much you can upgrade on here. All right, so the score here maxed out. It won't even give me a score. That's on the regular wildlife, so I figured we would get that. So let's go and maybe we'll do the extreme one. And I'll run this in unlimited mode. I'm just trying to get a baseline versus the other ones. But yeah, we will do the Blackmagic disk speed test next. And I think you're probably right there, Neil. Yeah, so I think the big factor here will be the amount of GPU they include, right? So far, no heat, but I haven't done much with it. So we'll see if it makes any noise when it's going through the benchmark here. So it's in the pin chat. This is the base model. Okay, so we got a score here, and I'll give you some context for this in a minute as well. And actually what I want to do here is just put on my do not disturb so I don't get text messages and stuff. Okay, so the score is 9,610. So if I go over to my benchmark sheet, I have scores for my other Macs. So my other Macs, I should say. So my MacBook Air M2 got a score of 6,818. This one is 9,610. So it's pretty close to what you would get. So it's not So GPU-wise, like for example, a NVIDIA 3060 would get you 14,000. So this is under like what you get with a fancy NVIDIA chip. I'm just trying to see if I have anything else on the list here that would be equivalent. So it's good. I mean, it's I would say it's probably in like the 1070 range, perhaps. So it's not bad. It's certainly better than my MacBook Air M2. So probably, I would say probably like a 20 to 30% bump, give or take. So give me 1 second here. I'm just going to get my notes started on this. All right, so 9610. And then the MacBook Air M2 was 6,818, which happens to be the computer I'm typing this in on at the moment. And I'll throw a few others on there too, just so we have a comparison. So it's definitely faster than the M2, which you would expect. And it's got more horsepower than the ROG Ally, which has 5,043. In fact, it's almost twice as powerful as the ROG Ally, at least on this benchmark. So I think that gives a good context here versus like the AMD Z1. It's got a little more horsepower. And that one came in at 5,043. So this is 9610 to 5,043, almost double the performance. Yeah, it's not like the size of an Apple TV. There was some talk on... Yeah, got a lot of people popping in. I figured there'd be interest in this. So we've got quite a large crowd here. We're up to 400 concurrent viewers right now. So, all right. So I did see a lot of requests for the Black Magic test. So we'll do that one next. And I think I can get that out of the App Store, if I'm not mistaken. If not, I'll have to install the whole shebang. Oh, there it is. Perfect. So we'll throw that on here next. All right, so let's open this up. All right, and we'll just select the select my documents folder here. Okay, here we go. You ready? Yeah, so I could definitely see. I'll read this off to you in a minute. So here, you know what I'll do? I have a means of getting the display on here for you to see. So let me pull this up real quick. So there you go. So 1.7 gigabytes write, 2.1 gigabytes read. So clearly, like, that's not, I mean, it's not bad for what a base model mini PC. Let's do a little better now in the read. So let's let it run a couple more times here. Yeah, so now the cache is kicking in, so yep. So I think write performance is your Achilles heel on this one. So you'll get a big burst here, and then it's gonna drop on the next run. So here it'll dip a bit. Ah, actually no, it's doing okay now. I bet you there was something else writing in the background. You know, I'm going to record this so we have a little B-roll here. So from my standpoint, as a, if the focus here is a general user, this is fine. I think a lot of you watching will be like, this is terrible. But 1.7 gigabytes per second writes, not bad. Not as fast as probably the 512, but reads are more than adequate. So there you go. So that is that. And now we'll lose about 50 viewers because that was that's what they came here for. See what happens? You deliver on what people want, and they disappear. All right. So now, why don't we download a game via Steam and try that out real quick? And just give me a second here for all this stuff to come in here. And it could very well do some write caching. Oh, you know what I'll do too? Now that before I forget, is I have a Thunderbolt hard drive here. So you know what I'll do is I'll plug this into the Thunderbolt port in the back, and let's see how that performance is before we do anything else with Steam. So this is a Thunderbolt hard drive, and I like to use this when I benchmark stuff just to make sure the ports are up to snuff. And I just want to wait for that to finish. Pop it in here. So on the back, we have 3 Thunderbolt ports, which I'm going to use in a second here. Let me log into my Steam account real quick, too. I love their barcode login thing. It's so convenient. All right, we'll log into that. So Neil says the 512 is 3, so it's a significantly faster drive. But, you know, if you're in the market for a cheap Mac, I don't think a lot of consumers are going to really care. All right, so we're going to come back to Steam here in a minute. So let me just kill Steam real quick, because what I wanted to do was just check the Thunderbolt port speed. So I'm going to select the target drive here, which will be our Thunderbolt drive. Okay, so now this is the Thunderbolt drive. Now this one typically gets about 2.2 gigabytes per second on both. It does overheat after a few minutes. So yeah, so that's working as expected. So we're not seeing any real Thunderbolt port issues here. And that's the Thunderbolt drive. So you could plug in a Thunderbolt drive, obviously, and get more performance out of it. Although it does not have, this one does not have Thunderbolt 5. So you got to deal with that issue. Okay, well, now we know that works. Okay, so now we'll go back to Steam. Yeah, I don't think so at all as far as everyday tasks are concerned. No, I think it's more than adequate. And Plex does do hardware transcode on Apple Silicon. So I may just do a whole video on it. I think I might just do that. Okay, so now I'm going to go to my library here. Now, here's the rub on the Mac stuff, is that some of these, so if you have Steam games, as I do, you will find a lot of your games are in here with a Mac port. Not all of them, though, are optimized for this hardware. So let me go find No Man's Sky. Where did it go? Here it is. So No Man's Sky is an Apple Silicon enhanced game. So we'll go ahead and install this. I'm just going to put this on the hard drive. And I have about, so there was a question about how much space is free. So I had about about 170, 180 gigabytes free. This is the 256 gig version. Yeah, there you go. You will get better performance with an external hard drive. Well, I'm going to make a note of that. And we're just going to download No Man's Sky here. And another thing I did not do, this is a reminder, I didn't get the 10 gig Ethernet on this, but it's still downloading pretty quickly here. So we've got about 13 gigs to download, and it's only going to take another minute and a half. And it's coming in around 887. So I've got a multi-gigabit connection here. But from the benchmark we ran, I was pretty impressed with, there's a nice performance bump here over the M2, which is what I have on my MacBook Air. I never tested the M3, so I would imagine it's probably more of an incremental speed increase. Had a little glitch with YouTube. You know, YouTube has been messing up again on me. I don't know what's going on. It's not my internet connection. But I haven't been able to stream 4K in weeks. Every time I write to them, they don't get back to me. Drives me crazy. Okay. Yep, they have not fixed the bugs. Was that 55 minutes? Was that what happened? Because I'm streaming at a lower, yeah, it must have been around the 55-minute mark. I'm streaming at a lower bit rate now because it won't let me do the 4K. I don't know what Wi-Fi it has. Let's see, go to the bottom here. Yeah, I'm not sure what Wi-Fi it has. Of note, though, here's something I just found interesting on the box. This is not made in China. It is made in Vietnam. Isn't that interesting? It looks like 6E is what it has for Wi-Fi. I have mine plugged into Ethernet now. Okay, so now let's get my game controller hooked up. I like to plug my game controller in directly. So I'm going to pop my hard drive out here. I always found it odd that to eject a hard drive on the Mac, you have to throw it in the trash. That's been like that since since the original '84 Mac. All right, so I've plugged this in. I have it in X input mode. This is a oh geez, now it wants to do some accessibility. Yeah, we'll give that right. Let's do that. All right, modify settings. Okay. So we'll go to play. I think it might be cheaper in the long run, especially if somebody mentioned something about tariffs earlier. If the tariffs become a big issue, Vietnam likely will not be on that list. So Grand Admiral Thrawn. So my first was an Apple IIe. That's the first one that I had. And it all depends on what you want to do. I would agree on the sense that you're getting a Mac. You definitely will get better GPU performance out of this. I think that's for sure. I should probably check and see. Yeah. So for example, that benchmark we just ran, a Core Ultra 7. That was in a ThinkBook, came in at 6,142. We got 9,610. And there's, I think the other Mac Minis had speakers also, but there's a speaker in here so I can actually hear the thing. So let me just do one thing on Steam here. I want to put the frame rate counter up. Oops. There we go. All right. Now the other thing I want to do is, let's see what we have for options here. And the game controller works. So it's set to 1080p right now. Now, of interest here, and I don't know if this might have been the last setting that I had it on, but right now it's set to Ultra. Now this could just be because the last time I ran this was on my MacBook Pro. And my MacBook Pro has an M1 Pro Max, or whatever the high. I bought the highest end M1 when I got the MacBook Pro. So why don't we try it out here, see how it does. Now, the reason why we're running this game, first of all, I play this game all the time. But secondly, this is a Apple Silicon native game. So even though I downloaded it from Steam, this is a Mac port of the Apple Silicon version. I'm sorry, a port of the game to Apple Silicon. So it's not running in any kind of emulation. As you saw there, it was using the Metal layer, which is Apple's equivalent of Vulkan. All right, here we are. So this is impressive. So right now, this is Ultra settings. I'm hovering near 60. Here, I'll give you a full view of it here. Actually, we'll run it this way for a few minutes. Yeah, it's running at 60 frames per second. Let me just go back in and make sure that's the settings that I have here. That's pretty impressive, folks. Yeah. So here you go. Full screen. Let me max it out. So let me max up the so I was maxing the FPS at 60, so I'm just going to go up to 90, even though I'll never get there with this, but yeah, it's holding its own here pretty well. All right, so let me go jump into my ship here. We're going to go visit my base. Whoa, my controls are inverted. Look at that. It's a big worm thing. Hang on, let me just get the controls fixed here. If I can. That's pretty neat. Okay, so we are at 1080p ultra settings, and we are pushing 60 frames per second. I think that's pretty crazy. And I've got sound coming out of it because it's got a speaker built in, which is pretty wild in and of itself. Let's get away from this planet. I'm going to go back to my base, wherever that is. I got to get to the other side of this planet, so we'll go. Now, just imagine if more games were optimized for Apple Silicon, right? Yeah, let's go to this base that I have up over here. I've been here in a while. And I'll give you the, yeah, I'll skip him. All right, so let me get you a better view here. I'm going to do some B-roll recording of this as well. But I'll tell you what, this game runs a lot better than it does on a Windows Mini PC at the same price. And this is the base model. Is this game not the most awesome game ever? So here it's about 40, yeah, so I mean, it's like 45 to 60 depending on what's going on. This game in particular is very demanding in certain areas like it is right now, and then in other spots it's not so much, right? So, and it's all procedurally generated, so you never know what you're gonna run into here. But if this is the base model, just imagine what the regular one can handle. It runs great. I mean, this is like amazingly smooth. And we're at ultra settings here. This is not like the base level settings. We're running full bore here. This is not Rosetta. This is native Apple Silicon. So this game was ported directly to Apple Silicon, which is why it's performing so well. And for those of you wondering about heat, it is not, it's getting a little warm now, but it's not significant. What I'm going to do, if I can figure out a way to do it, here we go. I turn the sound off. I don't hear the fan at all. I'm sure it's running, but it is silent. It is silent. And this has 16 gigs of RAM. So this is the base model, just 16 gigs. So it feels a little bit warm. And this is 1080p. So we're at 1080p ultra settings. And we're getting what you're seeing here. This is my battle cruiser over here. That's my big ship, and then we've got my base down here. So we'll go land at my base. But if there's a fan on in here, I don't hear it. I mean, it is dead quiet. What I should probably do next is see what kind of power consumption we're getting. I did not plug my kilowatt in first before I set it up. So maybe what we'll do is pop this out and try that and see what we get. But yeah, I think it's running great. This is my big base here. Yeah, so this game, you can buy it on Steam. And what's nice when you have the Steam version is that it'll run on your Steam Deck, it'll run on your Windows computer, it runs on anything. And when you boot up your Mac, you get the Apple Silicon Enhanced version. So here's a good point from One Man Show, right? Like all this intelligence stuff required them to beef up the GPU capacity and the MPUs, I guess, too. So I would say it would warm up a little bit, but it's not hot. It's warm to the touch. The bottom is totally cool, so it must be using the case maybe perhaps as like a bit of a heat sink. That was a question from Albert here. But it's very cool on the bottom. So this one is an Apple Silicon game. I don't know of any others that would run on it, so that might be helpful to have a few other examples that we could try. Oh, I didn't realize Heroic Game Launcher is on the. So what is it? How do they do the translation? I got to try that. And this is the ship I got from the last. Expedition. Isn't that cool? It's like a UFO looking thing. It's really neat. It's got like a combination of a UFO and the Millennium Falcon. So cool. All right, so let's go quit the desktop here. I'm going to actually just plug my kilowatt in because I'm curious now as to its power consumption. And I'm also curious about the Heroic Games Launcher on the Mac. I'll have to play around with this later. Might need to run this command on terminal to make it run. All right, we'll go come back to that one. But let me shut it down, and we'll run the game again, this time with the kilowatt attached, and see what its power consumption is looking like. So let me ask you folks who are interested in the Plex component, if I did a Plex video, what would you like to see it do? Because I already know that it will do transcoding, so that's not a factor. They've had it for a while now. That's configured there. All right, so let me find my kilowatt, which is buried on the floor here. And I'm just going to swap out the connection. Okay, so that's plugged in. Of note, it's off, but it's drawing about, it drew like about a watt. So there must be something that it does when you plug it in. Now, I will say that there's a legitimate beef. I give people with a beef about the power button location some legitimacy here, because in order to turn it on, you do have to pick it up. It's kind of an odd choice of a power button placement. Don't forget, the G4 had a button right here. All right, so let me log back in here. And then we will take a look and see what its power consumption is looking like when it's See, that would be, I bet you that Intel, the value for Intel for Apple would certainly be the IP of Intel, right? But I would imagine their chip fabrication plants are probably the prize. And certainly they have technology, especially on the hardware optimization side for video, that's very intriguing. Now I'm looking to see if there's a list of Apple Silicon enhanced games here. So Baldur's Gate 3, World of Warcraft, Asphalt 9 Legends, of course. There is a website called the M1 Compatible Master Games as a wiki. And the problem is this is just like the Windows thing. You don't know which games are optimized and which ones aren't. So for example, when you go into Steam, you'll see all your games that are available on the Mac. They're just kind of listed there, but you don't know what, if I click on the little Apple icon here, but you don't know what is actually optimized for the hardware versus what's compatible with it. For example, there's even VR titles that would run on here. But there isn't as much, because I have a pretty big Steam library, and there's not much that is actually compatible. All right, so why don't we go in now and reload No Man's Sky, because I'm just curious as to the power consumption under load. So I do have American Truck Simulator. So that one's been optimized, huh? I've never played that game. I've had it in my library forever, so. This I don't remember, but I may have an old Atari in my back room there. I should look and see. And somebody created a, that's great. So I don't know if I have Baldur's Gate 3. I'll have to look and see. But apparently that one's been optimized. All right, now my game controller just stopped responding here. So let's see if we can plug this back in here. There it goes. All right, so we'll go ahead and reload the game and see what we end up with. And I'll tell you what the power consumption is looking like here. Now it's making me look bad. It's starting to, the screen's all dim. Let's see. There it goes. It's doing something. It was working. But let's take a look. Yeah, right now it's only drawing about 6 watts, but it's not doing anything, so. I may have to reload the game. I'm going to force quit it. I think I upset it. Yeah, it's not, by the way, it's not a perfect scenario here sometimes with, there's still glitches. Let's put it that way. All right, it just turned on Mac game mode as well, for whatever that's worth. Yeah, it's weird. My controller's not, my mouse is working, but my controller is not. So another thing they just implemented on No Man's Sky is cross-save. So you can actually sync up your save game across platforms. So Steam will sync up across anything that runs Steam. But now if you've got an Xbox, you can play the game on the Xbox and keep it there as well. Oh, you want to know what keyboard I'm using? So this is the TrackPoint keyboard from Lenovo. So it's an actual ThinkPad keyboard, and you got the nub on there too. I like it because I don't have a very big desk here for my studio, and it's nice to have something that fits in the scope here. All right, so let's get this guy back over to where we were before. And I'm going to have him walk around here so we tax it a little bit. So right now, under load, it is about 37 watts, 36 watts. Yeah, 36 watts. Like 35.4, but it hovers. Yeah, now it's 38. Yeah, so I would say like 38, 37. So it's like in like 35 to 40 watts. That's what we're looking at. Give me 1 second, though. I'm just putting some notes in my sheet here. Yeah, a little flakiness with the joystick, with the game controller. Yeah, so it's coming in about 36 to 38 watts. But not bad. Let me see what other settings I'm missing here. Okay, everything's on Ultra. And of course, we have it on Metal FX here. And this is an upscale. Oh, you know what? Maybe that's why it's running so well. So Metal FX Temporal is a... Oh, so I wonder... That's in the anti-aliasing section. Uses information from multiple frames to provide the best image quality at a higher computational cost. Okay, so it's at the higher... It's actually at the more aggressive setting here. But hey, you know, the results speak for themselves here. The game is playable. Looks great. It's my little base. I built it on the side of a lake, and there's like a whole underwater component to it. I built most of this on my Steam Deck as I was waiting for kids to go to sleep. That's what I do in my spare time, of what little I have. So what's fun is you get these guys that land on your base. They're NPCs. But if you were actually playing this game, you would see me. So you can see where my base continues here. I'll just get in the water here. You can see it. So I built it out so that you can actually go run under the water here. The water used to be blue, and then they did a big update, and they changed the color of my water, which I was not happy about. But it's so, this game is so cool in VR. It's really neat. So we'll go in here real quick. Oops. Isn't that cool? So I built this little base here, then I can go into this little transporter. It takes me down further. So in VR, it's kind of fun. You can just go down here and just watch the fish float around. It's really cool. Yeah, so I'm impressed. All right, so now let's go back to the desktop, and let's see what we get at idle. And by the way, I don't hear a darn thing out of this. It definitely gets warm at the top. So the case is warm, but it's not, I mean, it's not hot by any means. So just so you know that this game, the reason why I picked this one is because this is actually optimized for the M series processor. This is an Apple Silicon enhanced game. There's not many that are, unfortunately. But this one is. And as I said in the pinned chat, this is the base model. This is what you get for the entry price, the $599, or Amazon right now it's $579. So the low-end Mac is what you're seeing here. This is the base model. So the game doesn't use AI. It uses it's procedurally generated. So it has they have an algorithm that assigns values to each solar system, each planet, and it uses that to generate everything. But I think there could be some real potential for an AI generated thing, because all the creatures you run into and the plants, they're all like a mashup, random mashup of different art assets that they created. So it might be kind of fun for them to take their existing assets, run them through an AI and have it make new ones. That'd be kind of fun. So it's good stuff. Yeah, you know what I'll do is I will put a couple of extra links in here so you can find one. Amazon did have them up until a few minutes ago. So what I'll do on the YouTube chat is I will find a few other locations. But yeah, Amazon ran out of stock. When I started, this is what happens. I start a live stream and then they sell out. So maybe I sold them all. I don't know. But I think a lot of you are definitely of the mindset this thing's a winner. I'm just trying to see if anyone else has stock here. Yeah, so there's a few of these actually you can pick them up right now. So give me a second here. I'll drop a link in. And what I want to do too, before I go, I gotta jet in about a half hour, maybe a little bit less. Here, I'm going to put a link in the chat. And thank you to Error, who gifted 5 memberships. Thanks for your support of the channel. It's greatly appreciated. So can I like it? I wonder if I can like that. All right, so now that it's sitting idle, we are drawing 7 watts. It jumps up a little bit. I think it's because Steam is doing stuff. So if I quit Steam, let's have it sit like totally idle here. Because really what this is whenever the M4 MacBook Air comes out, this is the same configuration, just with active cooling. Yeah, so now we're at, yeah, there's a bunch of background stuff going on, so it's hard to say. It drops down to like 6.8 watts when it's not doing anything. But there's always something running that might peak the power consumption. But that is it. So there's a request to do some emulation. I'm trying to think what the best emulator would be to try out with this. RPCS3. I'll have to dig around and see what's optimized for this. But yeah, I'm pretty impressed with this so far. So the other thing I wanted to try was GPT for all. And this is an on-device, that's the right one? What's this one? Yeah, same one. This is an on-device large language generator. This might be one of those applications that gives us a security error. Let's see what happens. They may have signed. Yeah, they must have a developer license. So what this does is this lets you run a large language model on your hardware natively. I'll let that install real quick. All right, let that go to finish, and then we'll load it up real quick. So there is a rather large model that will download on this thing. It takes a minute to download it, but I'm curious to see how it performs. So basically what we're going to do here is we're going to and let's see, what am I looking for here? Give me 1 second. I just got to remember what I have not run this in a while. I believe this is optimized for Apple Silicon. And there was some new model that everyone was using. Let's see what the one is. I'm just gonna look and see what I can find for. What was the name of it? I can't remember. There's one that everyone was saying was really good. There's a bunch of llama ones on here, but give me 1 second. I was looking at a video this morning about it. Snoozy, that's what it was. I can scroll it, okay. I'm just looking for the right model here. Huh, it's not in here. Here it is, Snoozy. Very good overall model. Yeah, let's try this. So this will take a second to download, and then we can try it out. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to run a large language model on the hardware. And we'll see how it does. And I wonder if there's a Final Cut. I ran one years ago, but I wonder if there's a new one, like a Final Cut Pro benchmark. Yeah, Bruce X still seems to be the one everyone uses. Almost done downloading, and we'll run a few little LLMs and go from there. So Dominic's been running a bunch of. So what emulators are everybody using? So I guess the question is, is like RPS3 optimized for Apple Silicon? I guess is the question. I am not a World of Warcraft subscriber, so I haven't tried that, unfortunately. And we did look up, we didn't install any unsigned apps, but apparently you have to disable Gatekeeper, and then you can go through doing the usual unsigned applications. So they do have an extra step now. And then your Mac is presumably less secure if you turn off Gatekeeper. Oh, cool. So I'll have to check that out. I think I've got PS3 games somewhere. I may include that in the review. Okay, so let's start a new chat here. We'll load Snoozy up here. And what I'm going to do is just have it write us a story. So write me a 5-paragraph, I'll do 4 paragraphs, story about a cute, funny alien who gets lost in New York City. Some random thing here. Now, this is all going to get generated on device. So why don't we pull up our activity monitor so we can see what kind of load this puts the system under here. And we'll, I think it's going to make use of the GPU, so let's see what happens. All right, you ready? Yes, there you go. It's consuming most of the GPU. So what I want to do is run this like side by side with my M1 Max and see which one can generate the text quicker. So once upon a time in the bustling city of New York, there was an adorable alien named Ziggy. He had big eyes and a fluffy pink fur. I made him look like a cute little teddy bear. Despite his cuteness, he was quite clumsy and often got lost on Earth. But this is all on device. Yeah, the writing's not bad. So I may do like a little head-to-head against my other Macs and see how fast they can generate this kind of thing. So this is called GPT for All, and it's basically a way to run a large language model on your device locally. It runs on Windows, it runs on the Mac, it's optimized for GPUs and Apple Silicon, and there's a number of different models that you can download that do different things, that they have different optimizations. So I went with the snoozy model. So there you go. Yeah, testing's going pretty well. I think this is a good machine. I'm very impressed with the performance, with the power consumption or lack thereof. Yeah, it's been pretty good. I've got no complaints here. And let's do the Final Cut benchmark real quick. Grab that. It's funny, this has been around forever, and people are still using this. So I'm going to grab it and see what we can. All right, so we're going to grab this little Final Cut thing. I'm going to load up Final Cut Pro just to get it started. So the first time you run Final Cut Pro, it's got a bunch of stuff that it does, and then it'll start working. Okay, we are in. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to load up, get rid of all the extra stuff here. And this is a Final Cut benchmark that I have run many times in the past. And what we're going to do is I'm going to stop the rendering here. It's actually rendering pretty quick. And I actually I have to take a timer on this because it doesn't actually measure the time it takes. So what I'm going to do actually is kill the renders that it just made. So that way, we're going to go flat out here. So I guess the instructions are with this. Let me just reread the instructions. And export a 5K master file. Oh, it's rendering again. I looked away for 1 second and it renders again. So we do a 5K master file. So we're going to delete those all. Okay. All right, so now we're going to go share. And it's 5K. All right, so we're going to go ahead and click next. And we're going to go over to download just to put the file there. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, about half a second behind. So it was done in about 9 seconds. So compared to, I have this benchmark somewhere in my file here. Here it is, Bruce X Final Cut benchmark. Wow, you know, it's actually faster than, that's why this test may not be a good one to do any longer. So my MacBook Pro 14 with the M1 Max averaged about 11.5 seconds. This one just did it in like 9. I think, though, that this test is so old that because we know that the GPU in the M1 Max is more powerful, but the encoder in this one may be more optimized. So we got 9 seconds on the first one. Let's try it again and see what we get on the second run here. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, oops, shoot, hang on. I gotta reset it. 3, 2, 1, go. Did it finish it that quickly? There's no way it did it that quickly. It must have did it in the background. Let's quit that again and try again. I think I have to turn off the rendering is what I have to do. Let me do that real quick. So settings. What I do is we want to turn off the background rendering. I forgot how to do that. There we go, background tasks. Let's see if maybe it's in there. Nope. Let's look that up real quick. By the way, I've been using ChatGPT as my search engine, and it's so amazing. All right, so open file, select preferences. Okay, settings, playback, background render. Okay, I'll turn that off. And that should get rid of the background rendering. So if I delete the render, the reason why it was coming out so quickly was that it was already done rendering it. So if we go back here and delete, that might have thrown off my result the last time. So we're going to do this right here. Okay. All right, so export file. All right, so we're going to have the option to replace now. Say replace, ready, set, go. There's no way. It must be doing it. Let me start that again. It can't be doing it that quickly. Let me delete the file and see if it must have been rendering in the background while I was waiting for my input. Okay, here we go again. Next, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, it's more like it. Yeah, so it's about 11 seconds. So it's actually, you know, it's somewhat on par with the M1 Pro Max. The problem though is that what this test is doing, and this has been like a benchmark that's been around forever. I don't know if it's that much. I think it's competitive with. In other words, if you're doing any kind of Final Cut editing, especially the kind of editing that I do here on this channel, this would be more than adequate for that. I have not heard any fan noise at all. And we were running games on it. It's been crazy. So yeah, it's wild. I'm really I'm quite pleased with the performance I'm seeing out of this. So yeah, low power consumption. This again is the base model. So what we're looking at here is, and Timothy Vreeland just asked in the Amazon chat about that. This is the base model. So the one that you would get for the lowest price is what we're looking at here. So I'm finding very little. I mean, it's a Mac, and it's a good Mac. So yeah, I'm quite impressed. I'm very impressed with it. So yeah, that's it. So I wanted to just get this set up and operating. I've got a few more things I want to do with it. We did disk benchmarks already. So if you want to rewind back through the chat, you can do that. The base model does not have a very fast drive. So we were looking at 1.7 gigabytes per second writes and about 2 point something on the reads. So yeah, I mean, it's the quietest mini PC I've ever looked at. As you saw, No Man's Sky was running at ultra settings at 1080p and it was running just fine. I think it was doing a little upscaling though, so that's to consider. But yeah, it can edit 4K video. I edit 4K 60 sometimes on my MacBook Air, and it's fine. But the kind of editing I do is very limited, so I'm not doing a lot of high-end rendering and all that kind of stuff. So I think if you're doing a lot of color grading, a lot of things that will make more or need more GPU power, this certainly has more GPU than the M1, the M2, and the M3. But I think if you went to the higher end version, you'd be happier. But yeah, I've edited on a few occasions. Actually, if you look at, if you go on my YouTube channel, we did that video of the eclipse at my brother's place, and that was 4K 60. I did it all in the MacBook Air. In fact, what I did, because I was editing, we went from Vermont to the Bahamas, and I was on a Starlink. So what I did is I brought all the footage with me, obviously. I'm trying to remember how I did this. So we stopped home overnight. So I dumped the footage onto my MacBook Pro that was plugged in here. And then I took the MacBook Air with me with copies of the footage. I edited the video on the MacBook Air. I then connected back to my Mac here over Tailscale using Starlink and just copied the edit file over and had the Mac Pro actually upload it. But I edited 4K 60 without, not in the enhanced, with proxy clips or anything. It's full on 4K 60. It rendered everything. It was amazingly useful. And that's an M2 without any active cooling. So that is good stuff. I would not recommend this as a Plex movie player. I still think the NVIDIA Shield is the best way to go. It doesn't do Dolby Vision. It might do audio pass-through, but it's not, I wouldn't spend that much on this for that. But yeah, if you want faster storage speeds, you got to go to the 512. VR is not really supported anymore on Mac. There's a few Steam VR games that'll run, but get a PC if you want to do VR. It would make a great Plex server. The M series, the Apple Silicon is supported in Plex. And with all the requests that I'm getting, I may have to do a video on Apple Silicon as a Plex server, so we may do that. And I have a 512 gig on my Air, but I edit everything on external media. I never use the internal drive for that stuff. So yeah, and Golden Trumpet was using a M2 Mini. 4K video was fine. Yeah, it's more than fine. It's an amazing processor what Apple's put together here, and they're able to do this because Apple can say to their customers, "We're done with whatever platform we're on. We're moving to something new. Deal with it." And they've done it now from, remember, they started with 68K. They moved to PowerPC. They give you a little bit of bridge time for developers to catch up, some emulation or mapping or whatever, and then they move on. So, they said, we're going in this direction. By the way, I told everybody when the first one came out, I said, don't buy an Intel Mac because it's not going to be long before they stop supporting it. Intel Macs are still supported, but developers are focused on the new hardware. So yeah, I think so. I mean, look, I don't know what you might be doing on the Mac where that much storage speed is important, right? I think if you're in the budget for a $600 computer, the speed of the drive that we measured is fine. 1.7 gigs per second writes is pretty darn good. But as you saw, we plugged in a Thunderbolt drive and had better performance. So I would, yeah, if the write speeds are important, Thunderbolt would be better. This has Thunderbolt 4, though, not Thunderbolt 5. Thunderbolt 5, I think, is double the speed, so you get 80 gigabits versus 40. So, and we did all this already, so if you rewind the stream, you will see us doing that earlier. But you know what? Just for all of you before I leave, you know what I'll do? I'll run it again so you all can see it. And then I got to run. So let me go over here to the Blackmagic disk speed test. And we'll select our main drive here. I'll drop it in Documents. So we will conclude on what we started with, right? And so you can see it going here. So that's about what I've been seeing, about 1.6, 1.7 gigabytes per second write, and reads at about 2 gigabits per second. 2 gigabytes, I should say. These are gigabytes that you're seeing. And I did see a little bit of a cache hit here. I saw this the last time we did it also. So let's let it run through here and see what happens. I'm curious now. It did that on the second run last time, and then it didn't do it again. And then it read faster. See, now it's back to its other speed. So let's see what happens on the next run. Yeah, so you're in the 1.82 gigabyte per second territory. This is not bad. I mean, for that price. Problem is you can't upgrade it. So all the other mini PCs that we look at, the Windows ones, all have upgradable storage, replaceable storage, extra storage slot. You got none of that here. But I don't think these speeds are bad for basic use. So I love this guy. Please answer my question. We answered it earlier on. You missed it. But we just did it again, just for you. All right. Well, I'm going to run, but this was a good first impression. And I've got a few more things that I want to prep for my full review. And I may try to do a Plex video about this too. I got to figure it out. So let me ask, I got to figure out, like, how do we look at Plex? I mean, Plex runs fine on a cheap $200 Intel mini PC, right? So it's hard to find something, oh, look, it does what it, The answer is it's fine with Plex. So that's it. Yeah, the engineers are absolutely insane at Apple. I mean, they're at a whole different level. And you know what I think it is that you have a whole vertically integrated company now, from the hardware down to the chip level, all the way through to the OS. They're all working in lockstep with each other, and I think that's what makes the difference. Exactly, you can run Plex on a Raspberry Pi 4. If you're not transcoding, it runs fine on that, right? I think the hardware transcoding is what people will be looking for. So, but yeah, that's how I roll. I do real reviews. No fluff. Here it is. I spend the minimal amount of editing time. I shoot live to disk, just like I'm doing the live stream, and there you go. It's your Mac Mini. It works. So I will say the one good thing about the power button being at the bottom is that you can pick it up and not hit the power button. The problem is that the power button, you have to pick it up to turn it off. So that's the only downside with it. But no heating issues. It gets a little warm, but not an issue. I'm going to run, when I go take my dog out, I'm going to run a performance, a benchmark, just to see if it loses any performance. I don't think it will. The MacBook Air does. It loses about 20% of its performance, but that's because it doesn't have any active cooling. But this does. So I will start that here. So let's go to benchmarks. And we'll do a wildlife stress test. And what this will do is it will run 20 times, and then we'll see what it does. So by the way, power consumption here under load. So now we're getting a better idea of what the max power consumption is. So with this running, it's maxing out at around 44 watts. But it's in that, it's in the same territory it was before. So I'd put it around 40 watts average at the max that you'll see out of it. And that's running, this benchmark here at full speed. I mean, they could have totally fit the power button on the back. Here's a good question. MacBook or Chromebook for parents? I gave my mother a Chromebook. So it works fine for her because that's all she does is web browsing. But if you have parents that want to do a little bit more, The one thing I like about the Apple ecosystem is that if you have iPhones, you can set up like a shared album. The Photos integration works across the computer and the phone and all that. Yeah, you know what I might do is I might do a 4K output of my one of my videos and see how long it takes. Final Cut uses the encoders on these chips, not necessarily the GPU. If you're doing a lot of GPU rendering, the higher end Mac is better, but I think it's gonna be fine. My M2 MacBook Air is fine for Final Cut, and I use it a lot for editing. Red Hornet wants to know, is it good for Final Cut? Yes. Short answer, great for Final Cut. Final Cut is optimized for Apple Silicon, and we found in a benchmark earlier that the GPU is quite capable on here. It's not quite to 3060 levels. It's below what you get with an NVIDIA 3060 per my testing, but it's better than what we've seen out of the prior 3 Apple base level M processors. Yeah, FaceTime, the shared calendar, all of it. It's all great. Yeah, Pinball Pop. There's been all sorts of fun ways to get around the power button issue, for sure. So yeah, so I'm going to let this stress test run. I will let you know what it looks like when it's done. Power consumption-wise, though, we're in the 40-watt territory, give or take. So it's very low consuming. And at idle, I'm looking at 6 to 10 watts. You know, there's stuff that runs in the background that hits it every once in a while. But yeah, I mean, for a base model Apple product, this is really nice to see because it doesn't feel compromised at all. Because in the past with Apple, you got, not a lot of RAM and not a lot of storage. Now with this one, not a lot of storage. It is a little slower on the storage side, but the RAM is adequate enough to make use of that processor. So for example, when I bought my M2 MacBook here, which is my daily driver for all my basic computing needs, I had to buy the more expensive one. So I had to get the 16 gig one with the extra GPU cores. The base model, I believe, has the same number of GPU cores as the other more expensive version of the base level chip. Red Hornet wants to know, does it come with a Visa mount? It does not. All you get in the box is the MacBook or the Mac Mini and a power cable. That's it. Everything else is added on. All right. Well, let me run here, and I will be back with more. Now, if you want to know when I upload videos, because the YouTube algorithm doesn't always work, one thing you can do is sign up on my email list. So I have 2. I have Lon.TV/email, which is my weekly email newsletter. And then I've got another one called the Digest that I send out pretty much each time I upload a video the next morning or the day after, you get a email from me. So you'll get one tomorrow maybe. So Lon.TV/digest for the frequent one and /email for the weekly one. And then you can follow me on Amazon because sometimes I pop on Amazon and do live streams only there. So we've got that going on too. So lots of fun ways to follow me if the YouTube thing is not delivering this to you. And I do pop on quite a bit with these types of live streams just to experiment with stuff. Here, let me ask a couple other questions here right before I pop out, because this was a good question from Albert. It does come with productivity software. So you get Keynote. So if you've ever watched my commentary videos, I use Keynote for that. So Keynote is great. Numbers, the spreadsheet, pages. So you get pretty much a full Office suite in addition to their photo application, Apple Photos, which is getting much better. So it's good. Yeah, and Amazon's really good about notifications. And Amazon, yeah, Amazon's got live streams. I was actually one of the first ever to stream on Amazon as a influencer, if you want to call me that. But yeah, you get a ton of software out of the box on a Mac. Oh, and you get iMovie also, which is a great video editor. So it's yeah, they give you a lot of value with a Mac, I think, from a software side. Granted, you pay more versus a PC, but you get a lot more. Temps are fine. It's a little warm, but that's it. I mean, it's not even making any noise. It's crazy. So yeah, no more Apple stickers. That's a bummer. I agree with you. And Red Hornet says, I saw you. This is on the Amazon chat. I saw you. That means I was one of the first viewers. Yeah, you were. That's right. So yeah, it's good stuff. And Brandon wants to know, so Brandon Knows Games wants to know how gaming is on it. It's going to be okay. I mean, the problem with the Mac platform is that it's not Windows. So you don't have the breadth of gaming options on the Mac as you do on the PC. And there's not like there's some attempts at a Proton-like layer, but it's not there yet. So we did run No Man's Sky, which ran exceptionally well on this hardware. We had it ultra settings at 1080p, and it was like, it was hitting 60 frames per second. So it's really good. Yes, you are correct about that. USB 4 40 gigabit is the same as Thunderbolt. So if you wanted to get some adapters to get high-speed external storage, it's cheaper than a Thunderbolt enclosure for sure. So I would do something like that. I mean, the one difference is that if you get something that's Thunderbolt certified, it does go through the certification process, which USB 4 devices do not. And yeah, I think you can run Minecraft on these. I have not done so, but I think you can. You can definitely run the iPad version. So good stuff. All right, I got to run before the sun goes down here. My dog needs to get out, and I got to return. I got like 12 phone calls while I was doing this, and I'm sure I got a lot of phone calls to return. So I'm going to keep working on this thing. I'm hoping to get my review up tomorrow night. So if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, and I will get that out in due course once I do a little bit more evaluation with my little Mac Mini here. So thank you all for tuning in. It was fun. I'm glad I was able to get this on release day, and I'm impressed with it. I didn't need it. I have no idea what I'm going to do with it. I'm probably going to sell it to one of you at some point. But in the meantime, I'm going to play around with it and see if I can find a place for it. Because right now I've got 2 Macs already. I have a MacBook Pro. Actually, I have 3. Well, if you count the one Jake uses, 4, plus the other 3 that are sitting dormant because they're old. I have a lot of Macs. Actually, no, I have like 6 or 7 Macs now that I think about it, but they're all old. But my MacBook Pro basically works like a desktop. I take it with me when I go to CES and that sort of thing. And my MacBook Air is like my go-to computer. So I don't know what I'm going to do with this. Maybe I'll bring it upstairs. I don't know. I like it. I just don't have any use for it. We'll figure it out. So thank you all for tuning in, and I'll be back again before you know it. All right? So have a great afternoon, and look for the review coming up as soon as I can get it done. Talk to you a little bit. Bye-bye.